Hello my friends, welcome back to another episode of CivOps Gear Reviews, reviewing all the EDC gear for everyone from the discerning civilian all the way to the experienced operator. Please make sure that you go ahead and like this video or unlike it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, please. Go ahead and leave a comment, and please share this video with anybody who you know that likes Epicenter knives. Additionally, go ahead and follow us on Instagram at CivOps_gear. Thank you very much. Getting into the video today. Today, I am excited on a side note because I just received one of the very new batches, the new run that just is coming out now of the Spyderco Paisan, an integral titanium frame lock with a massive 3.8-inch S90V blade. I'm extremely happy to have this in hand and check this out for a while. This is a very cool knife. Since I don't have a Patreon page, or therefore any Patreons on that page, I would like to thank my job for making it possible for me to see this knife and pick it up and check it out. So I will be reviewing this soon after I play around with it for a little while. Strong detent on this bad boy. What we're here to talk about today are Epicenter knives. I just also received the new Boker Epicenter lockback for 2023. Just received this bad boy in from Blade HQ, along with a new Chavez knife that I'll be getting to soon. I want to talk about this new Epicenter, how it's the same and how it's very different from the original Boker Plus Epicenter and of course the Boker Plus 2021 collection limited Epicenter. Both of these are phenomenal knives in many ways, and some of those characteristics extend to this new Epicenter lockback. Of course, these are all Todd Rexford designs. And so let's talk about each one a little bit, and then we'll get really into a little bit more in-depth review of this new 2023 lockback Epicenter. A lot of you probably remember this Epicenter. This was the original from Boker Plus, designed by Todd Rexford back in, I think this came out in 2011, 2012, sometime like that. Some of you who remember this knife will know that the first batch or two had some QC problems, and they ran into a number of issues with this knife. In fact, if you scroll down through my videos to one of my earlier episodes, you will find an episode where I had to destroy my original Epicenter just to try to get it apart, and have obviously since replaced it with a better version. Same knife, same version, but I think probably a later run. So this was a really interesting knife for not only really iconic for Todd Rexford, but a very interesting knife for Boker Plus. This was, I believe, the very first titanium frame lock for Boker Plus. And what a titanium frame lock it is. Oh, doggies are barking. This knife has whoppingly thick, 5mm thick, blasted, 3D contoured titanium scales. This knife does not weigh nothing. It's got a little heft to it. And it's got a 3.5-inch flat grind satin VG10 blade, which is very, very slicey. It is got a nice action on it, but it is not what you'd say just falls naturally into place. There is a little tension. It's got a strong detent. In fact, watch this. It's got a nice strong detent. But that detent does force you to use enough power to whip this VG10 blade open. And it's just a beautiful, sleek, nice looking knife, which is very reflective of Todd Rexford's work. It just fits nicely in your hand. The ergos are great. And I bring this point up because it's going to come into play a little bit later when we talk about the new one. The beautifully machined 3D titanium scales, though they have this somewhat sharp looking edge on the rear, it's really quite smooth and beautifully machined. So when this edge fits into your hand here, you really don't feel that at all. It causes no problem. It's extremely comfortable. The ergos on this knife are great. I love the jimping up on the spine of the blade. In fact, one of the reasons I like the jimping so much is because the design of the jimping is reminiscent of an Epicenter, hence the name. It's got a nice sharpening choil at the base of the usable blade. It's got a very, very nice, what do you guys think, about a 45–50% lockup on that frame lock. It has a titanium pocket clip, which is reversible for either tip up or tip down carry, only right side, however. And the frame lock is easy to use. The blade is beautifully centered. It's just a very, very nice knife. Now, some people consider the weight on this original Epicenter to put it out of the category of everyday carry. I disagree. I'm a little bit larger of a person. I'm 6'2", like 220. I have large hands. And so what I consider carryable every day might change, might vary between, other people. But I consider this absolutely an everyday carry option. I agree it is a little bit bulky and a little bit heavy, but I enjoy a larger knife. So I have always been happy with this original Epicenter, always loved it. In 2021, when Boker Plus released their second annual limited Boker Plus collection, I believe the first year was something, I think Jen's Anzo was 2022. Anyway, 2020 was the first year. This is the 2021 Boker Plus collection model, which are limited to 500 worldwide. This is a new take on the Rexford Epicenter. This obviously is clearly also a Rexford design, being that it is his knife. This takes the same knife and steps it up in many, many ways. Obviously, this is a really fine example of quality craftsmanship right here, with a beautiful action that actually does just fall into place. This, of course, has a 3.45-inch satin M390 blade, and of course uses all titanium on the rear side with a titanium pocket clip and a titanium frame lock with a stop bar. And on the show side uses a titanium bolster with wild carbon fiber scale. It also features bronzed thumb stud, bronzed pivot collar, and bronzed standoffs, which just add a little color to this beautiful, beautiful beast, and just give your eye a little something to be attracted to there. This is a phenomenal knife, and I absolutely love it. As opposed to the first Epicenter, the thumb stud is only on one side. But similar to the original Epicenter, if you look at the jimping on top of the blades, you'll see that it shares the same Epicenter design. Of course, the Epicenter being the center with the waves rolling out from the center. The action on this is definitely smoother than the original Epicenter. This really flies open and locks up with very, very little effort. This looks like, probably about a 30% lock up there. And of course, this frame lock does have a stop bar, so you cannot overextend your frame lock. The pocket clip is not reversible or movable. Of course, you could take it off, but it's not mountable in any other position. It is only right-handed tip-up carry. I find this knife to be just beautiful. It fits perfectly in the hand. The ergos are just so good. And of course, the design language between all three of these Rexford designs, especially because they all stem from one design. These are all Epicenters. The design language is immediately visible. You can certainly see that all three of these knives are related. But this one being the slimmest and the smallest, although not really much smaller, its blade is really only about, 5/100ths of an inch smaller than the original Epicenter. I absolutely love this 2021 Boker Plus limited edition. I think it's a beautiful knife and it feels great in the hand. And again, I have bigger hands, let's remember that, but still the machining on these blasted 3D titanium scales is so smooth. The edges are so nicely rounded that when this edge digs into the hand here, you really don't feel anything. It's just supportive and solid, and it just feels great. With all that said, here is the newer, much more buyer-friendly, because it's much cheaper, Epicenter Lockback for 2023. This just recently came out. And as opposed to the first two, which are both frame locks, the new Epicenter is now a spine lock or a back lock. Some people still consider these. In fact, I just read something recently. I was reading a review of another knife, and somebody was calling this a slip joint. This is not a slip joint. This is a spine lock or back lock. It is not a slip joint. This does in fact lock, whereas slip joints really don't. Although I understand the confusion because slip joints also use a mechanism along the spine to hold the knife in place and give you that pressure, that tension that holds the knife closed and holds the knife open, but it doesn't lock. This is most definitely a back lock knife, which requires pushing down on one end of the lock to raise the other end of the lock, and that frees up the blade. So, like with the first two Epicenters, you certainly can see the design language. Most definitely. You can see the design language in this blade. The original Epicenter used a VG10 blade. The 2021 Epicenter uses an M390 blade. This much more affordable version, coming in right around $120, $125 from Blade HQ and a number of other sellers, but Blade HQ has them in stock. That's where I got this. This new blade is D2. So it does use, what most of us would consider a fine tool steel, but certainly it's not M390. And frankly, I don't even find it to be VG10 really at all. So the D2 is fine. It comes to you out of the box sharp. It's ready to do some slicing. We can probably all use one of our sharpening systems and put a little bit finer edge on there, but it does not come dull. So this new Epicenter comes with black G10 scales with yellow stainless steel liners, which is a very interesting design element. Definitely adds a new sort of sporty color that is kind of out of the blue in the Epicenter world, but very cool. It also has a bronzed collar around the pivot and does feature a stainless steel deep carry pocket clip which appears only to be mountable in the right-handed tip-up carry position. It also features a bronze ring around your lanyard hole. So that just adds a little bit of more color along the yellow lines. So the ergos on this knife, similar to the first one, also feel very good. This feels very, very solid in the hand. And in fact, one thing I really, really enjoy about this is if you look on the spine of the knife, the machining is actually so nicely done that it's hard to even find, and I'm sort of trying to show it off to you in the light so you can see it, but in person, it's hard to even find the point where the blade separates from the lock. Until you unlock it, they come together so beautifully that it's very hard under normal light with the normal eye at first glance to even catch where they separate. At first glance, when you hold the knife, it almost looks like a fixed blade, like a full tang fixed blade. So there's a great build quality to this knife, for sure. It feels very solid. Is there any blade play? Forget about it. Not even a chance. Let's talk about a couple of the things that I think have suffered by bringing the price down as low as it is on this new Epicenter. The only way to deploy this knife is through the thumb holes. But as opposed to blades that have a full circle for a thumb hole, at least on my big chunky thumbs, there's not quite enough space to dig in here to really give it a good, it's an insecure push for me. And I cannot get the traction on this semicircle deployment hole to confidently bring it out quickly. I can get it out, absolutely I can get it out. I mean, I don't struggle too badly with getting the blade out at all, but it definitely is not enough of an opening, at least for my big thumbs, to be able to confidently, with just one attempt, sweep that blade out. The other thing about flicking this blade out is that it's really not going to happen because, similar to a slip joint, this back lock is keeping pressure on that blade the whole time. So it's not just a matter of defeating a detent ball. It's really a matter of defeating the pressure of that spine lock, of that back lock, the whole way out up until the lock engages. So there really is no, even if there were a size of deployment hole that I could get a good grip on, there really is no flipping this knife out. You really have to work it out. You really have to push the blade all the way into the locking position. The only other issue I've found with this knife, and possibly it's because these are now G10 scales with stainless steel liners, but as opposed to the very beautifully machined 3D titanium scales on the first two Epicenters, when I carry this particular Epicenter in my hand, and again, I've only gotten this yesterday, so I've only carried it, I've only been playing with it a little bit, but immediately I notice that the sharp edge on the rear of the scales does actually cause a little bit of hot spot when it digs into your palm. Now, again, I have to say again, I have large hands. Other people with different hands may find their hands fit differently and they don't run into that problem. But I can definitely tell you that with all three of these Epicenters, with that rear reverse side corner of the scale basically setting into my hand in the same spot, this is the only model that does give me a little bit of grief right there. And when I squeeze the knife hard for a good solid grip, it digs in. And I wish that perhaps this rear corner were a little bit more subtle. But besides that, I have to say that the ergos still are very good. The knife, it does not have the jimping on top of the blade like the first two did. It's just a smooth spine on the blade. But the ergos are still good. And as a fan of the Epicenters, of course, I had to have it and I had to check it out. I do appreciate that they have scaled down the knife in a way and made it a more approachable and obtainable version of the Epicenter for your average buyer. A lot of people are not going to hunt down the long discontinued original Epicenter, and a lot of people are not going to spend the around $400 for the limited edition 2021 Boker Plus collection Epicenter. But I think a lot of people can and will obtain this Epicenter. It does have a very, very secure lockup, and once the blade locks into place, there's no doubt about the security and stability of the blade. There is no blade play. Up, down, absolutely forget about it. Side to side, no. So it is very solid. It weighs less. The G10 is very lightweight. The yellow steel liners are very thin. And so this knife does not weigh much. It even, I think, despite being a little larger, it even might weigh, right about the same or maybe a little less than the 2021. It certainly weighs less than the original Epicenter, no question about that. But again, I run into the issue where the thumb studs and being frame locks on the first two Epicenters allowed you to flip the knife open very easily. This new one, being that there's no thumb stud but is a thumb hole opening, is certainly workable. Again, don't get me wrong, it's not like I can't get it open, but I sure wish that they would lower this hole down a little bit and make it a hole, a full-sized circular hole. Even if they had to elongate it and make it a slightly more oval shape, that would be fine. But I certainly could do with more than just the half semicircle as far as getting it open with a little bit more confidence, because I find that even though I can get it open, I just, my thumb just is so close to slipping off that slight edge of blade that is still there at the edge. And often I find my thumb just kind of loosely flipping off. So I have to be a little bit more conscious and a little bit more aware of opening this one, as opposed to either of these. There's really no thought to it. These just fly open with the thumb studs. So this has as opposed to the first two, which have titanium pocket clips, this one is a stainless steel clip. Still deep carry, but like I said, only one position. It's got a nice bronzed lanyard hole, so that should be easily workable if you want to lanyard it up. And the G10 scales are nicely crafted, and again, the ergos certainly feel good. You can see the ergos flare out a little bit on the side, and they just help to fill up your palm and your grip, and the knife feels good. There's no question in looking at the design language that all three of these knives are related. And so if you would like to enter the Epicenter world and you missed out on the first one, you might be able to find one of these on eBay from time to time. They will come up like any other discontinued older model knife, but it's not like there's a load of them out there. This one is still available at Blade HQ and several of your favorite online retailers. But again, this is a pricey model, limited edition and top quality materials. So if you're looking for a way to enter into the Boker, into the Epicenter world, this might be a great option for you. And if your hands are even slightly different size than mine, you might not run into the same issue I'm having with this rear corner. And again, it's not like it's puncturing or stabbing me or anything, but it is a little sharp, and it's just not as smooth and subtly rounded as the titanium scales are on the other models. So those are my only two complaints. Besides that, the lockup is great. I like the look. I like the sort of sporty look of the yellow liners. And I'm happy with this addition to the Epicenter family. So there we go. Soon, close-up photos and a little bit more verbal description will be available on our Instagram page at CivOps_gear. So go ahead, find us there and like or thumbs up or love the review. Thank you very much. And we will see you on the very next CivOps gear review. Thank you guys. Talk soon. Bye-bye.